What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the channel. My name is Michael, and I hope you are having an amazing day. Napoleon Infantry Tactics, a quick guide. Super excited to check this out. Super excited to go ahead and continue this series. So I actually started the very first part of this series at the end, was the Battle of Waterloo. Went back to the beginning, and I'm slowly following in chronological order. Thanks to you guys for letting me know. But anyways, Infantry Tactics. That's a tongue twister right now for me, for whatever reason. But anyways, drop a like. Let's go.
In the Napoleonic Wars, infantry fought in close order, packed together, standing shoulder to shoulder. But why present such an easy target for the enemy? First, command and control. Before radios, orders had to be relayed by shouted commands, drums or bugles. Difficult enough in the smoke and din of battle, almost impossible if troops were scattered. Second, firepower. Smoothbore muskets were inaccurate beyond about 80 yards, so volley fire, firing en masse, was the best way to inflict physical and psychological damage on the enemy.
80 yards.
Third, morale. Soldiers were much more willing to advance into danger or hold the line if they did so together as a unit, urging each other on. Fourth, defense against cavalry. Scattered infantry were easy targets for horsemen. Only by sticking together could they fight them off. The basic tactical unit of infantry was the battalion. A French line battalion had, in theory, 840 men, but in practice, nearer 500 to 600. Our example here has 605 men, a typical strength for a battalion on campaign. The men were divided into 6 companies, 4 fusilier companies, and 2 flank companies. On the right, the grenadiers, made up of the tallest, strongest men, often detached to form elite all-grenadier units. And on the left, the voltigeurs, specialist light infantry, used for skirmishing in front of the battalion. Skirmishers moved independently, used cover, and fired at will to harass and unsettle the enemy.
So in a sense, guerrilla warfare, or an individual who partakes in guerrilla warfare, is on the left side of the left flank. And that's really cool that they kind of categorize it in different sections. From like a perspective of like what I know about history, just kind of back in the day, was I didn't realize that it was a little more complex than basically a frontline unit broken down, and obviously arranging the formation. But we got the tall, kind of, we'll call them more suited physically soldiers, and then on the left, light skirmishers, which we're seeing, and this is kind of more modern warfare. So it's kind of cool to see, kind of the old school and also kind of the more modern, all within one, kind of line. And we're seeing this, or this video is before the other videos about Napoleon, but knowing the dominance that Napoleon had, this formation had a large advantage. Very interesting stuff.
While preventing enemy skirmishers carrying out the same task. Most armies also had specialist light infantry units for this role, such as the British 95th Rifles, French Chasseurs à Pied, and Austrian and Prussian Jaeger battalions. The traditional battlefield formation was the line. All companies formed up alongside each other, 3 ranks deep. Line formation maximized the number of men who could fire their muskets at the enemy, and limited casualties from artillery fire. But it was extremely vulnerable to cavalry if it could be outflanked. And even for well-drilled troops, it was difficult to keep the line straight while advancing across broken ground. So for maneuver and attack, battalions usually formed a column of divisions. This was a more flexible formation that allowed the battalion to advance quickly, though it presented a larger target to enemy guns, firing solid round shot that would tear through several ranks, and far fewer men could fire their muskets at the enemy. Theoretically, therefore, the battalion would deploy into line before reaching the enemy. But carrying out this slow maneuver...
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, right now we're seeing almost like a wedge formation, and it would almost make sense to kind of have like a wedge into this, but we'll see how this adjusts.
...under fire wasn't always possible or sensible. So some commanders kept their men in column, relying on momentum to break the enemy line. This was a risky tactic that often worked against raw troops, but led to high casualties when facing better trained infantry, like British redcoats. A column could be closed up quickly to provide protection from cavalry.
Like a wedge.
Or if there was time, could form a square. With bayonets fixed, the battalion formed an all-round defence that often resembled more of a rectangle. Enemy cavalry could surround the battalion, but not break in, as horses won't charge a solid wall of men and steel. But an infantry square was extremely vulnerable to artillery fire, and could only move very slowly.
Yeah.
Changing quickly and smoothly from one formation to another, especially under fire, required training, practice, and experience. In 1809, the Austrian army began to use the battalion mass formation, crude but more suited to hastily trained conscripts. This was a dense column with limited firepower and huge vulnerability to enemy cannon. But it could quickly close up to repel cavalry using the same principle as the square, but without the complex drill, and was much more maneuverable.
Interesting to see that. Skip ahead, see if
in the credits for making this series possible.
So, quite interesting on the tactics. And we're you know, we know that Napoleon's a very good leader. We know that he's very smart when it comes to militaristic tactics. And, you know, in the beginning, during the middle, at one point, it almost like seemed like they were about to make a wedge formation to kind of push in. But, you know, I was wrong in that regards. That's just a little bit more modern on the wedge. But we're seeing the square, which, you know, that makes sense. If cavalry and horses are scared to basically charge through lines of men, you're able to kind of defend yourself. We've seen tactics throughout, you know, the years in the square formation, kind of surrounding yourself and making it hard to kind of break through the middle. But nonetheless, very interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see how these tactics changed with Napoleon throughout all these different battles, because he was a very good leader, and we're going to be seeing victories in battles that are won. So it'll be interesting to see the tactics. But anyway, subscribe, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming your guys' way. Thank you guys so much for all the love. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like, comment your feedback. Stay tuned for the next video. And as always, stay healthy, stay happy, and have a blessed day. Peace.